I was walking through our restaurant. This just happened days ago, and I heard Johnny, and I must have been somebody from my past because people don't call me that anymore. And I turned, and it was this girl, lady. She was 42. She came running and gave me a big hug, and she said, "Do you remember me?" I said, "Well, yes." I said, "But I think you're about 18 the last time I saw you." She said, "I was. You remembered?" I said, "Yes. You were in the kitchen, at the cafeteria of the high school, and I bought you a can of pretty good soda pop because you had a big fight with your girlfriend, your best friend." She goes, "Oh my heavens, you remember that?" I said, "Yes, I do." She said, "You changed my life." And she said, "Boys." And she turned. Oh, that'll be part two. Part two? She said, "Boys, listen to this. This is Johnny. He's responsible for every one of you guys." And I looked, and they looked. They said, "You're that Johnny?" I said, "I guess so." And they all got up and they shook my hand, and the 12-year-old gave me a big hug, and he whispered, he said, "Man, I was the toughest one, but because of you, I'm here right now." I said, "That's crazy." Oh, wait for part 3. So she asked me if I would sit for a few minutes, and my party hadn't all showed up yet. I said, "Well, yeah, I could, yeah, sure." And we talked, and the boys, she started to tell the story of what happened, 24 years ago in the cafeteria. And a 16-year-old said, "Can I tell the story, Mom? I heard it 100 times. He said, "Okay." And Mr. Caldwell doesn't mind. Anyways, I sat down, and I looked at her in the cafeteria, and this is the young 16-year-old. She said, "You looked at my mom, and you told her she was absolutely, stunningly beautiful on the outside." And then my mom thought, "Wow, what's he going to say bad about me on the inside?" But you didn't. You said, "And you were absolutely stunningly beautiful on the inside. And you want to have a bunch of children." She said, "Yep." I said, "Well, before you go on a date, if you agree to go on a date with a guy, you say, I want to know your intentions of how many children you want in your lifetime." If they can't answer that, you don't go out and date with them. And you don't tell them the right answer either. No. They have to figure that out for themselves. Because, guess what? If they want a whole bunch of children, you're staying home with them. If they can't provide that and they don't have a plan for that, you're not marrying that guy. And the 16-year-old says, "That's what you told my mom." Oh, wait, another part coming up. So you might say, "How did the subject come up anyways?" I said, "Well, that was the fight. The fight was all about, one girl said she wasn't going to bring any children into this world. And my friend, the mother, said, I'm going to bring a whole football team there." And I interrupted there, and I said to my friend, I said, "Are you still friends with her?" She said, "I've never spoke to her since. And I've got 5 boys." I said, "Does she have any?" She said, "I don't think so." I said, "Wow. Well, let's keep going with the story. I don't know the number." So anyways, the mom took over, and she said, "Look, I got married young. I had the 5 boys over 10 years. And I had a wonderful marriage. I was married to a wonderful man. And 5 years ago he died. Or I would have had 2 more kids, but yeah." She kind of laughed. I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, how are things?" She said, "Well, I do have a question for you, and I trust you, so I'm going to ask you a question." I said, "Well, fire away." "What was the question?" Well, she said, when she got an insurance policy when her husband died, she invested in mutual funds, and they've done terrible the last 5 years. And the market's done really well. And she wondered, she said, I took all my money, and I'm in a self-directed account, tax-free savings account, everything's self-directed by me. She said, it's all in cash, and I have no idea what to buy. Can you help us? I said, that's easy. She said, somehow I know you'd say that. I said, all right, here's what you do. You get some cleaning supplies, all right? And it's probably been a while since your kitchen has been completely cleaned, all your cupboards cleaned out, and your fridge, and everything cleaned out. And probably your bathroom or one of the bathrooms. You clean them out and do all the cupboards, clean them, and then you put everything back. She said, yeah, what's that got to do with investing? That sounds like a cleaning service. I said, no. 5 boys and girlfriends and friends or whatever, everybody comes over. Everybody takes a group of products and they read the label and they go to their, whatever their AI system is, and ask them, Honey Nut Cheerios, who owns that company? And your AI will answer you, and you say, well, what's the stock number? What's the symbol number? And what exchange does it trade on? Does it trade on the Canadian exchange, or what exchanges? And what's the stock value done the last 5 years? And there's the dividends, you know. And you go through all your products. Oh, while you got them all out, you may as well check the expiry dates too, right? I got a cough. And I told them to go through all the products in their house. And if you've been buying these certain toothpaste for 20 years, maybe you should invest in that toothpaste company. You know? Things like that. Just everyday things. And, you know, if the girlfriends are there too, maybe say, well, at my house, we buy this kind of cereal. And somebody say, yeah, I love that cereal, you know? And you can go on products like that. And that's a good start, you know? Good paying, because people consume that stuff all the time, like toothbrush and hair stuff and shaving cream and razors, and it goes on and on and on. Oh, your food, of course, your soups and everything, right? Well, if you're going to, you know, support those companies, maybe you should own shares in the company and get dividends. Anyways, they said they'd do it. She took my number and she said, maybe I'll invite you over. I said, I can help you with the stocks. I'm thinking I'm going to end that story right now. It's a wonderful story. I'm happy with it. That's the news I had all season, all year. For sure. Yeah. Oh, their last name? Jones. All of them. Yeah. So the Jones boys are back in town. Bye.